This is Lisa Cove with DOD Fed Globe and That's So Gay Live, and I have with me famous blogger Melanie Nathan. Hello, Melanie.
Hi, it's nice to see you. Well, my first interest in activism came about when I found myself in a situation where my partner was actually a binational. And I could not sponsor her for a green card, notwithstanding the fact that we were married. So I developed an acute interest in the plight of binational couples. We were very lucky. We really pursued a very different route that most people would not be able to access. And I was able to accomplish residency for her in the United States, and it made me realize that so many people were so dramatically impacted. To my way of thinking, what could be worse than not being able to be with the person you love in your own homeland? And so I had to do a lot of advocacy work on my own behalf and soon became very familiar with the system and how things worked. At which time I was asked by Shirley Tan to see if I could help her. She was about to be deported, and I played a pivotal role in getting her a private bill introduced by Senator Feinstein back in 2009. After that time, I was involved in the Uniting American Families Act Senate Judiciary Committee hearings, as well as local hearings in California on the issue of Uniting American Families Act. That somehow, for some reason, morphed into a wider net. And what that involved was, through my writing, I started to get stories. And initially my writing was really just a platform for what I was doing as an activist. And then I started to get story after story, and I found myself caught up in a lot of what was going on in Africa, and started to write stories about the issue of, and I hate the term, but the issue of corrective rape, which I think should be called non-corrective rape. This involved lesbians in the townships in South Africa where they were being supposedly curatively raped in epidemic proportions. It was unbelievable how many people this was happening to. And particularly followed one case, and at the instance of the victim published an article which read The Face of Corrective Rape, and the victim herself wanted me to put this picture of her, which was a very telling picture. And that got a lot of international attention and resulted in a change.org petition, which ultimately served as the vehicle to produce some of the reforms that I had drafted over a 2-year period as an observer of the issue that would help victims of corrective rape in the South African judicial system. That resulted in 2 things. I got an invitation to go to Cape Town as keynote speaker for Cape Town Pride, and also to see the Minister of Justice in South Africa at the Parliament to be able to present the reforms that we had drafted on the issue of corrective rape. What that resulted in was the formation of an LGBT task force in South Africa that would examine hate crimes in that country. Now, while South Africa has probably the most progressive constitution internationally, it includes sexual orientation and gender identity as a protected group, it still hasn't been able to match in terms of society and cultural acceptability. And so the LGBT task force, which is in partnership with government, hopefully will help educate the population and will take matters further in that regard. That led me also to advocate for decriminalization of homosexuality in Africa. And I established a telephonic relationship with the author of Kill the Gays Bill, David Bahati, who calls me periodically to discuss his intentions and where he's been going with his bill. I've been able to interview him in a debate format on the radio and also written extensively about him. I am well sourced in Uganda and other countries in Africa. My interest lies very deeply in LGBT asylum out of Africa for people that are really suffering enormous hardship because of the cultural and legal ramifications of criminalization of homosexuality in that region. First of all, I've been very disappointed in the advocacy of some of our organizations with regard to the Uniting American Families Act. The Uniting American Families Act seeks to put the word permanent partner into the Immigration and Naturalization Bill. I believed in 2009 that we had got very far with that, but unfortunately a lot of advocates took on the slant of comprehensive immigration reform, and to my way of thinking that sidetracked our advocacy out of the uniqueness of UAFA, the Uniting American Families Act. What was unique about UAFA is it didn't speak to immigration per se. It spoke more to the issue of equality. Why could straight people who had legal spouses, why were they able to bring people in under the Immigration Act and not gay people who had legal marriages from a particular state? And it showed the anomaly between the federal law and the state law. And I really thought that UAFA could have gone further with a democratic assembly, a democratic Senate, and a democratic president, but they never took it that way. They hitched it to comprehensive immigration reform. Unfortunately, it shot us in the foot, and we did not get UAFA when I think we might have been able to. That said, what I love about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell is that it casts a huge spotlight on inequality in general. And the reason I say that is Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal sets a basis for people to be able to come out in the military. It doesn't grant equality in the military, and there will never be equality in the military until such time as the Defense of Marriage Act is repealed, for one. And so I believe that we've kind of shifted away from the necessity for UAFA, Uniting American Families Act, which will give us green cards. We've shifted away in time because now on the legislative table is the repeal of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, through the Respect for Marriage Act. And it has support in the Senate of Senator Feinstein, and it also has the President's support. So my ideal is a major focus at this point on the repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act. In fact, I think for the purposes of the military, it's twofold. The military has the unique opportunity to bring the hardship that military service members will feel now that they are able to be open, the hardship that they will feel by not being able to marry and get the federal laws that go with marriage. This speaks directly to military people who might, for example, be based in Germany, fall in love with somebody in a town in Germany, and like their straight or heterosexual counterparts want to bring them back home to meet family in the US, etc. It would be hard for those people to even get a visa, often, least of all to come back and get a green card and marry. So things like fiancé visas don't apply to gay people, and green cards don't apply to gay people, and that will extend to the military. The positive thing of the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell is that I'm hoping that the military stories will start to come out and to help the civilian groups in the United States of America to advocate for more on equality in the general legislative realm in the United States of America. It comes down to, I think that especially transgender people have been very left out of the progress that has been made. Some activists take the stance that, well, let's do this first and we can do that later. Personally, I'm a person who feels that sexual orientation, gender identity should be included in our Constitution, as included in the equivalent of a Civil Rights Act, some kind of Equal Protection Act, some kind of omnibus bill, super bill, that will take care of every aspect, and similar to the Civil Rights Act, that will make it illegal to discriminate against anybody in any way, shape or form on any realm of any law relating to LGBTI.
Thank you.